Hello. Jim Bob just asked, did Posh start streaming? So I started streaming. Nice. Nice. You know how I always say I should get notes prepared for things? Because I keep thinking of good topic, not just subjects, but also points. And I said, oh, I should really write that down. And I never do. And I probably never will. So I'll probably just, like an idiot, get a wristband of sorts made to remind me, write it down, you pillock. Right. So I'll take this opportunity, this window of calm, to light a cigarette. Organizer says, greetings everyone, hope all is well. It is getting nice and chilly in the Midwest now. Well, in Kentucky it's it's bloody warm here in Serbia, especially today. So I don't know, it's a good warm. I prefer colder weather, but this is like a nice autumn temperature, even higher than what it usually is, but I'm not higher enough that I would complain. How's the Rizmaxing going? Yeah, you know me. All about the ladies. Sort of look at them like, you bastard. Why do you have political emancipation? Knob wave. Inbound. Right. How have you lot been? I didn't stream on Tuesday because Jim Bob was streaming, Jay was streaming, I think even Andrew was streaming, and plus the whole Iran attacking Israel was going on, so I had to follow details. I just can't resist. So yeah, I elected not to stream that day. Today I coordinated with Jim Bob, so we don't overlap. Greetings, Craig P. It's still funny someone sent in a super chat with Mike Hunt. And I said my pronunciation is academic, which probably didn't sound like the most humble thing to say, but literally, I that's how I learned to speak English. Oh, it's probably going to get a lot more interesting. Moreover, brethren. Was that you, Matthew? Or am I mistaking you for something? The moustache is a giveaway. Right. I also had a haircut. Just said an haircut. Oh, hello. You might have chatted in before, but I didn't recognize you until now because it's so calm still. So I got a good look at the profile picture and I realized it's you. Hello, Melaforta. Smell. Nice. Christ. I promised the Austrian song today, which sounds like something you'd sing when you're trying to get your channel nuked, but no, it's not that type of Austrian song. But I've been mentioning it for 2 streams now and haven't performed. Last time it was because we got crunched on time and had to send you over to DPH, I don't think he's streaming today. He did yesterday. So I think we're clear on that side. But still, Nice. Okay. Let's let it go to 10 minutes before I start ranting. As always, I do the I do the thorn in your neighbor's eye, and the pillar in my own is there to be beholden by. Jim Bob is stringing. No. He'll send people over. That's not a problem. I know we've talked about it prior, but so this isn't a particularly pertinent point to make. But I keep telling Jim Bob, stop arguing with bots on Twitter, which I think he has actually stopped, or they just don't appear in my feed. But then that blasted, accursed, I'll stop there, woman pearly things. Just I can't get it. Like 3 times a day, I almost start writing a response. That, I'd edit out the insults after having finished it, and then let the point remain. But what was it? Something about it. I'm saying arguing with her is like arguing with a bot, but nevertheless, like she said, well, why should men vote when neither the left nor the right represents their side? As a response to someone who was saying women vote more than men. Not only that, but they actually volunteer more time. Jim Bob after party stream. Woo! Wait, is this the after party stream? If you come to me for a party, you will be sorely disappointed. Yes, this was just a Gemini. Veštakom. A veštačkom inteligenciju. Da je njegov bio Srbin 2 sata. Yes, why would you do that? Why would you argue? It's charisma, Mysterion. We won't be calling you charisma, Mysterion. It's the Baron who says Pearl is based on red pill. You just can't handle the risk. On our channel, she'd be like 20% of the content at least. I'll stream the after posh party stream later. Okay, that's fair enough. As I said, coming to me for a party is a very poor decision. Who's this drunken Serb? Serb, not Serbian. I really barely started drinking. I mean, come on. You have some faith in me. Hey, Posh, didn't you debate Aaron Ra? No, Matt Dillahunty. David Wood debated Aaron Ra. Pearl is built like a man, definitely played volleyball. Yeah. I know. I won't talk about it anymore. The tall women in Serbia, but like, yeah, she has the volleyball build. Stop shaving your face. Trust me, it's the lesser of 2 evils. You can't day drink if you don't start early, Posh. Good point. I hope 10 p.m. isn't too early. All right, we've got 120 people here. I bet she can box out for real. Probably. Looking good, Porsche. Again, we don't appreciate lies. Thank you. Well, it's one thing. I have never commented on her looks. I don't care about her looks. I care about the fact that she talks absolute rubbish. So I was so bloody mad. Do you like William F. Buckley? Yeah, I like him. Not that bloody fell apart. Yeah, her appearance isn't the issue. I don't care what she looks like. She annoys me because I tend to read things in people's voices, and that really doesn't help the fact that the nonsense is accompanied with that voice. So yeah, but anyway, I started the point like, why should men vote? And then you see people in the chat like, men. Same can be said for marriage. Why should men marry? Blah, 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 blah. Which goes to my point. I sometimes sound like a fence sitter on gender wars, not because I was white-pilled on women, but because I was black-pilled on men. I've never had the opinion that men, they keep their emotions too much. Like, I've always thought men complain too much. With women, they complain even more, but, they're women. Like, you sort of expect it. With men, it's like, why aren't you suffering in silence? Like, drink. No, but I hate it, and I hate the fact that we think, right, men are stoic and stuff. No, men should be stoic, but they're not, and that's not helping me. Probably not helping the women either. But it's not helping anyone. But they complain a lot. Who is worse, Milo Yiannopoulos, or Pearl? They're both provocative. The woman annoys me more. She shall be referred to as the woman, with full contempt. Whose turn is it on with the headphones? I called him a console peasant. I couldn't help it. She's got that brain rot. I don't think she does. I think she's a grifter. I don't think she believes anything. I'm a woman, and I think men are having a rough time. Me. Christ almighty. Is Buzzwrecker here? Didn't see him. I still don't see him. But hello, Buzzwrecker. Yeah, female red pill grift. It's the easiest grift in the world. Let me share with you a local story. My expressions are great. Thank you, Zimmermanel. But a local story as an example of men not being this base and red pill thing, and specifically now gym men, because you know how people say, oh, go to the gym, go to the gym, go to the gym. I go to the gym. I support going to the gym, but the people who keep selling it as a panacea or even anything other than maintenance are absolutely mad. And any time someone treats it as anything other than pure maintenance, they end up somehow gay. Men who post like fully shaved torsos, they don't go as far as oiling up. They shave and then they take pictures of themselves. I'm posting this to let young men know that masculinity is blah, 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 blah. No, you are a word I can't say, and a grifter. But that's one thing. The point I was mentioning is so there was this woman from Serbia, and there's this pop song, which I don't know, but I heard it on the meme. There's like a woman singing, "You're a bigger woman than me," and the caption is in Serbian, "When I can hip thrust more than a guy, or when I see a guy who can't hip thrust as much as I can," and she's like singing that song, and you had a substantial portion of men in the comments saying, well, let's see you on the bench press, let's see you on a bicep curl. What? It's a perfectly legitimate joke. Right. As I said, coming here for a party, bad idea. Coming here to get blackpilled on things you thought, hey, maybe there's hope. That's the reason to come to this channel. It's not gay, bro. It's just body oil in my bag that I can't reach totally. Wash my back, senpai. Oh, Christ. Any man who claims to find 30-year-olds more attractive than young teenagers is sus. Yeah, legitimately. She went quite low with the age as well a couple of times. Posh build, which is just a cistern of black bile. I don't even bother to give them in pill form. It's outstanding because we're supposed to believe it. And if you read like replies from these men, when she says something about women cheating, which obviously happens, I don't know. Actually, I do know. Feminists used to just say all men cheat, and again, Sex in the City and nonsense. But then someone says, it's not the same when men cheat because there's different evolutionary pressures. So it's less of a crime. Actually, I shouldn't say crime, but like less of a moral failing because there's evolutionary pressures. Again, Matthew, I don't think she's a pick-me. Maybe performance-wise. I think she's completely legitimate. So, after ranting about how men complain too much, the irony is not lost on me. I keep messing up my accent. Yesterday, I heard Jim Bob do a British accent, like the non-fancy one, and he did like 15 of them in 3 sentences. And it threw a spanner into my works. But we're here to discuss serious topics. So let's start. And what prompted me to do this was I was listening to Father Stephen DeYoung do a lecture on the life of Moses. And one of the topics raised was when Aaron and Miriam, his siblings, started complaining because he married a woman who was Ethiopian. And he mentioned the point, like, there are these racialists who say that they were complaining because the woman is Ethiopian. And that wasn't the problem. The problem is he already had a wife. That's the issue that they had with the whole affair, because I mentioned this a couple of times, and last time I mentioned it also that Phineas, the name, means he of dark skin, and that is the grandson of Aaron. His son Eliezer marries a black Libyan woman, so a woman from what was then called Libya, right? Nowadays we think of like Arabs mostly, although that's not technically true, but Arab speaking. But obviously, the more south you go, the darker they get, and that is why they have this child that they name Phineas, because he had dark skin, and he becomes the high priest. So there was never this modern racial element in the idea of Israel. I didn't realize I had a brother in my family till today. That's I don't know if you're joking, but if not, that's a huge revelation to get. Libyans all had blonde hair. I love that, like the inverse Hoteps. Are we talking about Israelites of color? Yes. Berbers and stuff like that. It's not. There isn't a singular thing. My brother's name is... Oh, so that's why I emphasized brother. Should have spelled it with an A at the end. Brother. I imagine you had a great time after finding that out. I got it. Just I needed an indication that that's how it was used. I'm not used to it. Right. So this is Jakub. The people who keep using Christianity, in this case the Old Testament, to try and prove something because they have a political concern or agenda nowadays, bro, honky. Okay. The Jews really the chosen people. This is what I'm talking about, gladio maxixus. To even say Jews, that means people from Judea. That is the part of Israel that wasn't destroyed by the Assyrians. And God gave them over to the Assyrians because, as we know, we have the split, then we have the establishment of this calf worship in the northern kingdom of Israel, within Bethel and Dan, which were placed like more northwards and more southwards, so it's more convenient, which is absolutely forbidden by God. And God, again, always gives plenty of time. Darker skin icons are for voodoo. I doubt he said that if an icon has darker skin, it's for voodoo. In traditional iconography, takes certain artistic principles from the Greco-Roman way of painting, which is, for example, you use very earthy colors, so it makes it more interactive in a sense. There are things that are obviously emphasized, but you don't tend to use very flashy colors. So earthy colors keep you calm. They're not there to I don't want to say excite, but to maintain a prayerful state. And it also allows you to read more into it, interact more into it as you interact with the story being presented. Hej då, Christian Bjäring. Another thing that is used is you very rarely in icons do you get facial expressions. Sometimes you do, but they tend to remain rather neutral. The idea of darker skin, they might bright colors lead to rap music. So they darken over time. That's true. So yeah, there could be ones that are used for ritualistic purposes. Jay would know much better than I would. And Jamie, they cover those things a lot. I tend to deal with them on a more low resolution, broad scale. They go into the nitty gritties of it. But they do darken over time. You have the Hoteps using this as proof, like that everyone was black, like you have a church in Russia, and on the iconostasis, the saints are very dark skinned. That's just time doing its thing. But no, it's proof that everyone was black, including obviously Jesus. So no, we shouldn't immediately jump to things that are very convenient for us. That's basic confirmation bias. And if the demons love a way of distracting us or causing us to stumble, it's just going for our confirmation bias. Because not only does it lead people astray, it also makes you feel very proud about it. If they get you to sin, like you watch pornography, you do your deed, you feel horrible afterwards. But I'm discovering the secrets of the universe. I'm crushing. I talked about this with Jim Bob earlier. Like, you have these people, I won't name any, who provide slop that makes you feel like you're some type of genius who has cracked the codes. There's obviously This is why you don't have Jay just ranting or just giving people slop. It tends to be very laborious, difficult to digest and stuff, because that's how actual conspiracies work. It's not just, oh, they encode this number here and then you flip it around and the angles that are created by, right, that tends to be just confirmation bias. Jovan Deretić, Jesus was a Serb. I actually attended a lecture by Jovan Deretić. He's one of those people, I told you, every group basically in the Balkans has people who claim that the world was created by their ethnicity. And Jovan Deretić was one of them for Serbs, and I attended a lecture. I wanted to see it. And one of the people from the church during the Q&A got up and asked, so are you saying Jesus was a Serb? And he said, no, but he did preach in Serbian, and the man just left. Like, nope, yep, I'm not staying to argue. I'm just leaving. Jesus byl Serbom. Yes. Obviously, it's the only way to explain how based he was. Paradise slop. That's a great one. So, back to my point about, as I always do, I went off on a tangent, but I was asked by Gladius, Maxxs, about Jews being the chosen people, and I went off with explaining the Northern Kingdom, right? So they establish this obvious idolatry, and then you have the Southern Kingdom of Judah, which has not only the tribe of Judah, it has some Levites, some Benjamites, etc. But the northern part is wiped out by the Assyrians. Again, not killed off completely. They got resettled throughout the Assyrian Empire. And that's where we get the term Jew, basically, like Judean. Just don't say the Dean part. There you go. So to say Jews are the chosen people, you've already left out a couple of things. Secondly, what do you mean by people? Depends on what you mean by people. No, it's about a nation. So I talked about this, but it's worth reiterating that the nations of the world are under demonic influence. And God establishes this new one, which was supposed to be this beachhead from which the worship of the one true creator God is going to expand. And as we did, I don't know if Gladius Maxxs has seen on Jim Bob's channel, Jim Bob, Jay Dyer, and myself did a stream on dispensationalism, and we talk about it. I mentioned that the Bible is very clear. Like, I'm not doing this because you're good at anything. He talks about the Israelites. I'm doing it for the promises to your ancestors. But if you keep breaking the laws, like, I will treat you as any other people. You're not special. That's very clear in the Old Testament. Another thing that's very clear is that it's a conditional. If you obey my ordinances, I will be your God and you will be my people. Again, that reinforces the first point. The third point is what I started discussing here. Not just that the Old Testament, when Israel leaves Egypt, it says a mixed multitude, which is to say, it wasn't only this genetic group that left. They had Egyptians, they had different ethnicities like the Libyans, like the Ethiopians, etc. People in those days, when they say people, when they say ethnos, which is where we get the word ethnicity and ethnic, they meant a nation. So not a genetic group, but that's why you can say people or you can say a nation, but it's not a lineage of blood from a particular person, because people get adopted into families, people marry outside, and as we see throughout, I may mention with Phineas, it's good to mention Caleb, who was a Canaanite. So that's why I say, to say that Jews are a chosen people, the question itself is wrong, because in a sense Israel was chosen, but not by any genetic factor. And should they abandon the rules and regulations, they are no longer part of Israel. And with the coming of the Messiah, what Israel is brought into the fullness, as we get with Malachi 1:11, the clearest one is we get the Gentiles brought, people who were formerly Gentiles, the people of the nations again, which would mean like people outside of Israel. But now Israel is this place that's brought together around the Messiah who has come for all peoples. And they are called to abandon the gods they worshipped before. God is very patient. In fact, the fact that Israelites were the chosen nation, again, Father Stephen DeYoung even contests the fact that it should be chosen. It's like created, as I said. It's created to be in this sea of nations. So it's not picking one of which is already existing, but that might be even pedantic for the points that we're trying to address here right now. So this is why I think last time or the time before that I mentioned the Talmud, and I said you can't just take a statement from the Talmud and say this is what the Talmud teaches, because that's not what it is. It's a collection of commentaries by rabbis, and you have the most horrific, vile things you can imagine. And also you have the one I also mentioned ended up in the Quran. To kill one innocent person is like killing the entire world, because the logic goes, you've killed all of the descendants that that person would have had. And you have statements like commentaries by rabbis who would say the reason God created people from a single person, from Adam, is because that no one can say my father, i.e. progenitor, is greater than yours. Right? So the fact that you have supremacist groups means nothing as far as what the Bible teaches, or even those in the Talmud who take this line. The problem with having the Talmud is, like you could hear from Jay criticizing things like constantly bringing up, should we Orthodox have deaconesses? No, I shouldn't say deaconesses, I should say female deacons. That's a difference, because in a lot of Orthodox countries, the word priestess just means the priest's wife. Like in Serbia, we say popadia, and the priest is pop, which is an affective term. Like the technical term is sveštenik. So female deacons, like the problem with revisiting the question, even though at the end, we shouldn't, even though at the end that you conclude that, you're sort of trying to create the illusion of choice. Like it's not a choice. Pope posh, which is sort of the problem in the Talmud. Right, female fathers, it makes no sense. Like deacon comes from helper, assistant, if you will, from Greek. The word dean, as it refers to like places of education, that comes from deacon, because they used to be deacons. I like to call them sort of the freer hand of the church, because you're not a priest yet. The priests have to deal with their parish, bishops have to deal with the entire bishopric, eparchy, whatever. But the deacons are still have more latitude to move. That's why they would end up in these positions where they can be more, not bureaucratic, but you understand what I mean. A bishop can't constantly teach at a college. because he has to go around bishoping. Kirill said evolution is lit. All right. Can't help him there. Like, I'm going to get Andrew to set up a debate with him. Right, bishop comes from episkopos. It means overseer, if you break down the word. But it is used as the overseer as the shepherd who looks after the flock that doesn't actually belong to him. I mentioned this. The person who owns the flock does not look after the flock, because if you have a flock that requires someone else to look after it, you're a pretty wealthy person. So it's either going to be one of your sons, and if you're very wealthy, you would hire people to do so. And that's what our bishops are. They're looking after God's flock, one of the flocks, which is in their jurisdiction. And I'm not going to get into this, but that's partly what the vestments, liturgical vestments, also portray. A lot of it is also based on how the high priest was ordained or vested in the Old Testament. My favorite one is you have a diadem or diadem, which is a type of crown, and when I tried to explain it, it's like a necklace that couldn't fit over the head, so it stayed on the forehead, and they couldn't be bothered to correct it. Said, this is a crown now. And it had a little plaque, basically, with the tetragrammaton inscribed into it. So the symbolism of this is, as the high priest would turn around, still early on, so not even the temple yet, but still towards the tabernacle, he is representing Israel to God. That is also symbolized by the ephod with the 12 stones, precious stones, and very, very exhaustive description of vestments and everything else in the Pentateuch. But then when he turns around towards the people, he represents God to the people. And with our bishops, they wear these mitres, these crowns, and where the name, the tetragrammaton, would be inscribed, it's a small icon of Christ, which is, again, the same thing. Hello, Saul Weber. God bless you too. I hope this info, even though we're getting off topic, I hope it's helpful to you. A lot of priest outfit was added after the fall of empire. Like the crown specifically was, because in a lot of places the bishops ended up being administrator of a certain part, because the secular leaders died in battle. But yeah, it evolves and it grows in complexity, but it still follows a trend. What was the topic exactly? Back to, well, we're talking about Moses, so we're talking about Aaron, we're talking about the high priest, so you end up talking about bishops. That's what happens. It makes sense in a certain way. And I can, if I were so inclined, I could pretend that it was intentional. But the reason I named it modernism versus postmodernism is that that's how I see it. People tighten and loosen their expectations, their understandings, and the things their evaluations, basically, as per their needs. So it's similar to what we talked about with tactical beliefs. But this is how they understand things. So when we have the Protestant idea of the perspicuity of scriptures, Perspicuous basically means very clear, like indubitably clear, which would require words to have basically an innate meaning, that is a meaning that is integral to the word. And that's just not the case. I mentioned here, I mentioned on Jim Bob's streams, I mentioned on the streams about linguistics I did with Jay and with DPH. Words don't have meaning in that sense, like there's something enclosed within them in some capacity. That's not how words gain meaning or maintain or change it. It depends on how it's used. And you can have a lot of fun examples. Those are always easier to remember. I gave the one of Jim Bob's books, like savage memes. So what does savage mean? What does savage mean? Savage means barbaric, lacking in civilization, unhinged, lacks impulse control, lacks basic ideas of, hygiene, proper behavior, etc., etc. But that's not the topic of savage memes. It's not memes about savagery. The idea there is, there's no bars held, there's no restraint on his part to mock these ideas, concepts, events, etc. A lot of people aren't aware that the Eucharist is the reverse of Passover. Instead of the cup of blood being passed up to the altar, the blood is taken from the altar and passed back down. Yes, it's a fulfillment in a sense, right? So instead of bringing sacrifices to God, he sacrifices himself for us. Instead of us, so to speak, feeding God, which is part of the symbolism in the Old Testament, the fatty parts of an animal would be burnt fully. A part is taken for the priests because they're not allowed to own land. That's what they live off of. And a part, and the rest, the person sacrificing takes with them. So you're sort of eating with God. This is, again, unique, not unique to the biblical idea. That is how worship works, sacrifices and burning things, and you're basically eating with God. We have a huge, very symbolic and very typological show of this with Abraham, where he eats with God, right? And two angels. That's not the Trinity. Again, I know people like to say that, but it's not true. But again, that's the point of fulfillment. It is now the end point. That's why we don't sacrifice. That's why God does not actually forbids the eating of blood and stuff, mostly because that's how a lot of paganism worked, drinking blood to gain powers and stuff like that. So what is commanded in the Old Testament? You spill the blood out. So you can't even use it. So it doesn't say collect them somewhere, just don't eat them. No. Spill them into the ground. The Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world, yes. Sacrifices are an insult to God now. Animal sacrifices definitely would be. But you could say that incense is what does God say? How does it describe? It doesn't say God is empowered somehow, so it's not the same as paganism. They have certain, how shall I say, certain motions are similar, but the point of it isn't. So in paganism, you would basically feed your god and clothe the idol, right? Bring sacrifices, clean it, etc. There was never an idol to Yahweh, because that's not the idea. He doesn't indwell a certain object in his capacity, and that's where you interact, right? There is a bit of that which is a condensation from condescension on his part. Fills Zeus's tummy, yes. We are not trying to fill God's tummy, which is why, as I keep emphasizing, in pagan cultures, when their gods are upset, you ramp up the sacrifices, because the angry gods, they want more. When God is upset at the Israelites, he doesn't say, give me more sacrifices. He says, stop the sacrifices. Your sacrifices are an abomination to me. That's God is saying, no. You have to understand, you're not doing me a favor with this. You're not earning my favor. And as the penitent psalm says, that burnt offerings, you don't desire burnt offerings. You want to, depends on the translation, humble and contrite heart, pierced heart, whatever, broken heart. So humility and love towards God is what he desires. These are means of achieving it. In the olden days, not even that olden days, your animals would actually be your wealth. That's why sacrificing animals would be a part of a way of you not to get too tied up with your material well-being. It's in a way reparative to sacrifice material wealth. Right. I got onto a good tangent. To those in the chat, communion is not a re-sacrifice of Christ. Yes, that's correct. It's a participation in the one and the same sacrifice, a recapitulation or reverberation. Yes, we don't sacrifice Jesus every Sunday, or almost every Sunday, and then additionally on other days. What is the name of the God that the Jewish people are waiting on? They're not waiting on a God. They're waiting on the Messiah, Mashiach, the anointed one. They missed him because they weren't happy. Oh, come on! I thought we were going to get you to chase up the Romans and stuff, Jack. So they Shabbatai Zevi. No, that's you have others. Baal Shem Tov and others. That's you have groups that do consider that they found the Messiah and then wait for him to return from the dead, and tough luck, because again they missed him. And unfortunately for them, one major spoiler to the point you made, the God they're waiting on, they gave up on the idea of two powers in heaven, which was a massive part of Second Temple literature. But to distinguish themselves from Christians, they started reinterpreting everything that was interpreted as this other person who is also Yahweh, who keeps appearing and even accepts worship in instances. They had to give that up and reinterpret it into another angel. Oh, in Isaiah it's talking about the nation of Israel itself, etc., etc. So they sort of bugger themselves out of a proper Messiah, even waiting for one. So they just have expectations. Daniel 9 necessitates a first century anointed one that will deal with sin. Exactly. So we get a timeline. And you can't escape from that, which is why a lot of people back in the day did claim to be the Messiah. But the people around them weren't shocked that someone was claiming to be, because, oh yeah, we know it's about time. So what do? They ask questions. They ask for miracles. They're like, okay, let's see it. Let's see your pitch. So Posh would be an excellent teacher. He would never stay on topic. Yeah. Funnily enough, because I was always a nerd, I would be the one that the people like the classmates would say, oh, if some teacher was like me, easy to distract, like, could you ask something about, I don't know, Sudoku or chess or some topic so we could just chat around? And every so often I would, grant that wish. I don't know what you mean by there is no sin. But yeah. I was disappointed when I heard Jonathan Pajot say that the Ethiopian wife of Moses was a racial thing. Yeah, I disagree. I would imagine, now this is complete, what do they say, guesstimating on my part, that he thought, yeah, but people were like that back then, and these were the I don't know, the siblings of Moses, so they were like, but no, it wasn't. The Old Testament says God can forgive sin, only God can forgive sins, and in like Zechariah 3, the angel of the Lord forgives sins. Yeah, I mean in Exodus, my name is in him, and obviously, this is the problem with when Muslims approach Christians and they say, oh, Jesus was killed by the Jews. Why? Because he said, worship only one God. What? That's the problem? No, that would not have been a controversial statement. Obviously, Jews would fall into idolatry and stuff, but that's not what happens. They go to kill him because he claims to forgive sins and shows that he is capable of forgiving sins and all these miracles, right? They knew what they were doing. They were fighting what they believed to be blasphemy, and incredible blasphemy at that. But yeah, Bosch is live. I can finally get some sleep. That sounds like an insult, but I'll actively interpret it as not. Racial is a modern paradigmatic. I think you probably mean paradigmatic. But yeah, Isaiah 2 clearly shows Gentiles going into Zion and becoming Jacobites, while the original Jacobites are cast out. Yeah, obviously not categorically cast out. I don't understand. Again, people reintroduce, like we talked about, this tactical introduction. Okay, you convince them it's not purely a racial thing. Well, all of a sudden it's back there again. Now that we need to use it. Like that meme, Mo throwing Barney out of the bar and he's back in there again. So yeah, it is a modern paradigm. Again, people back then in Egypt, you would see different races. In other parts of the world, you really wouldn't. Like, who from Sweden would see different races? Like, obviously, later, much later on, with the Vikings going around, over to Eastern Europe and then South, etc., etc. Like, they would ultimately, but not on like a civilizational level. It is Paul's arguments in Romans 9 is that the church was set up as a way to bring the Jews back into the promise. Yes. He even says, I would sacrifice myself if I could get my people to believe it. But that's not how things work. Swedish. So this is driving around high again. Nice. I can't imagine it. But sorry. We've got Screwed Up Rebellion for $2 saying 07 Posh. Thank you, Screwed Up Rebellion. Very cool. Do you believe Jeremiah went to the UK? No, I personally don't. I really dislike the wild suggestions because, again, it's like Hotepism. Where were we? Before we went into the Christ bringing people back in. Yeah, that's why Jesus Christ died for our sins, to take away the sin. Lol, that's why John writes afterwards that it is impossible to sin. That's a deeper topic than that, which I will have to address at some other point, because now we're going to have to go back. I remembered where we were. Unfortunately, there is sin, which is why you have saying, brethren, confess your sins to each other. Where were we? God damn it, I keep losing my place. Right, modern day debating. Not the channel, modern day debates. When people use words unwisely and very self-servingly, intrinsic meaning doesn't exist, because, as we mentioned with savage memes, or with stream, this is a stream, oh, it's not flowing water, yada, yada, yada. Or with a plethora of terms that we use for modern things. I think I was talking to Rip from the chat. We mentioned like cancer. And I said, I can't really remember. I don't remember looking up why we use that term. Turns out ancient Greek physicians would see like growth, and then these smaller growths on the side. It sort of looks like a crab. So they call it, obviously through Latin, you get cancer, which would mean just like a crustacean, like a crab. So it seems like a very simple thing, but, you know, we end up saying, oh, this idea is a cancer. So all of a sudden, oh, you mean it's this malignant growth that has these outgrowths and sort of has a crab shape? Like, no, what we mean is that it causes great harm. It depletes people of health, etc., and is very dangerous ultimately. So the crabs are to blame, exactly. Invertebrate floor crawler. Crab people. Oh God. So back to the topic, you know, the fact that a word has a meaning dependent on how it's used. Nowadays, again, rendering, as I said, with technology, is very often just applying something that was used traditionally. Like, oh, you've rendered a video game. Do you know how stupid that sounds? You're letting it like drip through. Not a cauldron. What's the term for it? I think I forgot this word before. Damn it. Whatever. Pot with holes in them. Cast not pearls. That's a good one. Yeah, like rendering fat. Yeah, but do you have fat inside your PC? No one would make that mistake. And the problem that people would now have is, we know the difference between colander. Thank you, Ersatz. The problem we have, we people who recognize the fact that words gain their meaning from their usage, derive it from their usage, and the people who reject that, who are the modernists in the way I've framed this discussion, is that we openly recognize it, sort of like with presuppositionalism. Like, everyone's got presuppositions. We are just actively aware of the fact and proceed accordingly. whereas people from the other camp refuse to. But they still use it. They still use a lot of words in very modern senses, and especially with communications nowadays being instant, being mass communications, and they're very easy and cheap to access. You get an immense number of terms. I also give the example of loafing. When you get a cat who puts its legs under its torso and it looks like a loaf of bread, and they call it loafing. Now it's a recognized term in a dictionary. Why? Because it's used. That's how it's used, and due to the fact that it has its usage, you can record it. And the opposite side of that is the postmodernist, who again would recognize that from us, on our side, the notion that words don't have a meaning in the sense that it is intrinsic to the word. Very often I mention awful and awesome have opposite meanings, but etymologically speaking, they shouldn't. But then they also say, oh, well, nothing ever has meanings, which means there's no way to anchor anything to anything. And as has been mentioned many, many times, they write entire books about words not having meaning, which makes no sense. But is also very similar then to like the idea of a social construct. Like, social construct doesn't mean something isn't real or tied to ontology. That's how a certain segment of the political spectrum would like to use it. Gender is a social construct. And I, for example, would agree. I don't agree with the idea that gender and sex are the same thing. Where I disagree is that they're not connected. No, biological sex is a necessary prerequisite for gender. But if you want to say gender is a social construct, it's about expectations, for example. Like, oh, this is how in this society this chore is considered a man's job and this other one a woman's job. Right? So the example I like to give, and we'll come back to this a bit later, and I believe I mentioned it, but it's a good place to address it. Like, if you prepare a steak in a pan, it's considered like cooking, and that's supposed to be a girly thing, not a pearly thing, a girly thing. But if you grill it, then it's a manly thing. You could have, I'm not saying that's, illegitimate. What I'm saying is that you can't then draw this final bolded line between it, because it's stupid. And in other cultures, it could be considered the opposite. So that's what gender is. This is the way men dress, this is the way women dress. And even in the same culture, you could have changes over time. Right? So what could be a good example? Right, women would never wear pants, for example. They would wear skirts, dresses, etc. This was mostly a practical thing, which is why you will find many more cultures in which both men and women don't wear pants than ones in which both men and women wear pants prior to modernity. The practicality for women would mostly be going to the bathroom, which wasn't, I suppose it still isn't a pleasant experience, but, it was a much less of a hygienic experience. But you will find women wearing pants in places that are very cold, right? The Inuits, for example. Because then it's freezing, so yeah, whatever you do, it's going to be a bother to go to the bathroom. But you will find men and women wearing different types of robes. You will find like the Greeks and the Romans, neither would wear pants, but they would recognize different types of clothing for men and women. That's not the only way to differentiate. But then, even nowadays, we how knew it real. I've been told so, but you know, I may take the position that Andrew has on Australia, but what was I saying? Right, even nowadays, both men and women wear pants, but we would still recognize, yeah, this is a type of women's pants. This is a type of men's pants. This is a woman's blouse. This is a man's blouse, etc., etc. So the fact is that you can't have this singular thing and just say, well, it's natural, it's simple, it's obvious, because most of these things, these traditional views, arise from practical circumstances. Man's blouse. If a blouse is what I think it is in Serbian, it's still a bit gay, but you know what I mean. Doesn't go into female or feminine. Real men wear ripped white jeans and shave their arms. Don't make me look up what the blouse is. Like in Serbia, when we say bluza, what we mean is like a turtleneck. So if it's not that, sorry. My mastery of English ends with very, very simple, practical things. Johnny Depp wears blouses. Well, you sort of ruined my point. And Bear Pig. Nevertheless, people would distinguish, but this is the problem that we face as a civilization, because either everything is obvious or nothing is real. And it's not true, because I debated on the Crucible, the guy whom I can't even remember, like, should transgenderism be accepted in Christianity? My entire point was, I recognize the fact that gender and sex aren't the same thing. What I'm saying is that it has to be tied to the ontology, right? So it's not. This is an expectation of men. So if you do it now, you're a man. No. Right, you're female, and I don't know. You fix a car. You know, you should be going to jail for attempted murder. But no, like, you do a traditionally manly thing. That doesn't make you a man. It could make you like a tomboy or something, and unless obviously pressed by circumstances. But people would see you as like weird, like, why are you doing a man's job? Doesn't mean you become a man. Like, we've turned the whole type of bullying that existed. You run like a girl, you dress like a girl, you are like this, into now you are this, and that's the difference. One side, the modernist side, doesn't like the idea of there being a gender that isn't synonymous completely with sex. And the other says that, yeah, gender is completely not just different, it's completely separate from. The truth is in between those two, because both of them are ideological takes. They're not well thought through epistemological schemas. They're just nonsense. They're just ideological self-referencing. If words don't mean anything, shut up. Go do your postmodernist thing, which actually don't do. Don't do your normal postmodernist thing, because it tends to involve severely underage persons. But do something that doesn't involve me being around, nor illegal, and that would be fine. The modernists, again, they fall apart for the exact same reason I brought up, with the difference between cooking a steak in a pan and grilling a steak. Because what they would do is try to create some type of, I don't know, pseudo-Darwinian explanation of why this is manly and this is girly. And in modern times, it would usually involve something like, yeah, but in a grill you have fire and no, that's an insufficient reason, because not cooking with fire but cooking with something else, electricity, is extremely modern. Historically, the prerequisite for cooking is cooking over a fire, an open fire. Or you could have, I suppose, like those earthen ovens where you burn a fire and then the heat is trapped in there, so you can cook. There's a wonderful video on it by the, I can't remember now. These people, this guy who's extraordinarily wholesome and stuff, who like dresses like a colonial era American and shows you how people used to cook, how they would build things, etc., etc. And I saw it, and you have this whole idea of you burn a fire to heat up this stove made of earth and sand. It doesn't have, which is what I thought it would, doesn't have like a chimney opening. It's fully closed off. So what you would do is burn this fire, but the heat would be trapped in the oven itself. And for a couple of hours, it would remain pretty hot. So you had this whole sequence of things you would bake in there, depending on how much baking it needed. So you would start with like baking beans all the way down to drying out herbs. So, yeah. Dakota Triangle, I'm not sure. Townsend's, yes. Thank you. Dance to the effing beat. That's what it's spelled like. And it's honestly one of the most calming things to watch. So I do support people watching it if you feel like both learning and relaxing. But back to our point, cooking would be done with a fire. So now you've lost that advantage, not to mention that, yeah, sure, you can put a pan over an electric stove. You can put it over like a cooker, natural gas cooker, what do you call it, a gas cooker, whatever. So it can still be over a fire. Those are actually preferable because you have more heat control. And you can also have an electric grill. Not nearly as good as like a classic traditional grill. British cooking is the best cooking. I'm not starting that topic. Does Posh know about the existence of mastic gum? He does not. But I'm getting a bit dry-throated, sorry. One issue in modernity is that there isn't any expectations of behavior for women. If you look at it, there isn't any for men either. It's just that women complain more, so it creates a pseudo expectation. But we all know every single bloody time a woman starts a sentence with a real man, like, no, I'm not listening any further. It's either going to involve me having to, engage with sex with a man, or like pet kittens, or cry, or whatever. So yeah, I'm not staying for the remainder of that statement. Greek chewing gum from the resin of a tree from the island of Chios, or Chios, I suppose. Someone may have mentioned this to me, and someone probably translated to mastica, and I still don't know what it is. Posh, have you ever seen Jokic out and about? He's on the other side of the country, so no. Real men pet kittens while having sex with a man and crying. Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you for giving us the essence of a Twitter woman's idea of masculinity. let's address something that people say, how men have fallen. Women used to, not too long ago, women used to carry like basically entire fox pelts around their necks, and it was seen as fancy and cool. And look at them now; they're all in like, this is an organic knitted sweater, sort of. Women used to be much cooler. Now they're all gay. But yeah, the only way a real man shoots an animal is with a camera. Every time I just want to say, like, I hope there's some type of apocalypse. The fur hat economy. There are still fur hats. Just concentrated around a couple of places in the United States, mostly Manhattan. Based fox pelt scarf, yeah. Real women wear fox pelts and don't cry. No, they cry if you won't buy them a fox pelt. Let's not get all reverse engineering feminism, DC woodworking. They all seem to wear scrubby tracksuits from 1990s these days. Are you calling me out? They basically say real men are what society used to think a real woman was. Yeah, that's basically it. We're just ending up with debasing the currency. I'm not reading that one, but I am laughing at it and burping. Tosh, have you ever seen Gorlock out and about? Oh, if you knew how fat people were here. I've never actually seen like an American type fat person. I've seen very fat people, but never like where it just spills all over the place. I don't know. That has to be something hormonal. It can't be explained by the fact that we're taller. Give Posh a glow up. I'm not glowing up for anything unless Israel gets its way, then we're all getting a glow up. Yeah, I think it's in the food. I think it's hormonal. I used to be fat when I was American. Yeah. So you hear people saying like you eat pasta in the US, you get fat. You eat pasta in Italy, you even lose weight unless you're like you have a regular weight. Then it's not a diet food. But if you're fat and you eat pasta from America, you're going to get fatter. If you're fat and you eat Italian pasta, you'll start losing weight. And it's partly the processing, it's partly certain pesticides that are used, etc. But this is what annoys me about the fact that we right-wingers are supposed to be woo capitalism, woo. Yeah, I'm not lose weight by becoming Italian. Yeah, it's not worth the wearing a diaper. Damn it, I keep laughing at my own jokes, even though people bully me for it. Yeah, don't overeat, but that's too complex. And Bear Pig, you should cut off a portion of your stomach and staple it back together. That's what reasonable people do. But back to my capitalism point, like, yeah, capitalism doesn't promote the best quality product for the lowest price. No, it promotes the worst acceptable thing at the cheapest price, because again, the price decrease, that's true, but that's because you earn a lot more with volume than you do with individual sales. Glyphosate is banned in most of Europe. Yes, glyphosates are the principal thing that is apparently causing even a lot of allergic reactions. So, like, your body doesn't develop, let's say, an allergic reaction to corn, but it starts associating corn with the intakes that do cause a reaction. So, now you've got guilt by association. So I don't know. Again, call up Andrew, set up a debate with your immune system to let you eat stuff. Capitalism promotes the desires of people, and that's most of the time bad. It's not just that; it also gets inorganic input from the ruling elite. But that is, you sort of sneak that one through. A lot of the damage is very much intentional. A lot of allergies are jab injuries. I'm sure. I just I don't have enough knowledge to quantify it. And I've also heard, like, in America, you get like 3 dozen of them at a time. Bypass operation is correlated with divorce. Obesity is a big problem in the USA, but now no one may say anything about it. Yes, and this is what I remember from the feminists not too long ago, like a decade ago. It was always like, oh, capitalism relies on decreasing women's or playing on women's insecurities to sell them products. That's why capitalism is bad. And then apparently they figured out, wait, we can just play on their pride, and it worked better than with men. The only thing that is sold to men with pride is basically beer, cars, like power tools, and and Viagra. That's it. 60 by age 3. Oof. Preservatives are meant to kill bacteria so the food lasts longer, but those same preservatives kill the good bacteria in the human body. Yeah, there is a point there. A lot of time, and then this is a genuine problem, because preservatives increase shelf life, and if you decrease shelf life, you're going to get a lot more food waste. So now the problem becomes trying to get things locally. But that would also cause a problem, because you have segments of, let's just say, the United States, where certain things grow better than in other parts. So historically, people would probably opt for more food preservatives. But at the same time, that would disturb how things were arranged. But things were kept in balance merely due to lack of technology. It wasn't some grand awareness of it. Decentralized food system is the answer. But right, but as I said, that's going to come at a cost as well. And the way things are arranged, that would cause a lot of problems for the service industry. And it's not that simple. But again, Europe has a much better grip on it than the United States. But yeah, so I don't know. Just cheat and steal Europe's answer for certain things, and it will be better. What's that vitamin in watermelon that's good? Vitamin N. I'll just leave it there. Eating seasonally, that's not always the reason, because a lot of times you get things out of season because they're grown in like greenhouse greenhouses and things of that nature. It's not always just things that are picked, months beforehand. It would cause massive fluctuations in price, though. In the UK, where a lot of people have houses with back gardens, if everyone used them for food, you could probably produce a decent amount. Yes, and there are solutions, but it requires mass response from the people, and that's going to be difficult because people prefer not to be inconvenienced. Eating tomatoes in December is criminal. Yeah, you could still get them, but they don't taste really good. They're like plasticky. Is Serbia part of the CUCT EU? No, we're not. We're surrounded by members, but we are not. I believe we have the strictest laws on genetically modified foods. You say not yet, but I don't think we'll ever get in. They rushed places like Romania and Bulgaria in specifically for geopolitical reasons. We don't need to be part of it for those reasons. Same with places like Croatia. And again, political classes really like it because it pays wonderfully for them. But to get the amounts of alignments with regulations and taxes and whatever is just not something that's going to be achieved. And I don't think they actually want us there. So, yeah. A man called Dr. Sebi cured cancer, AIDS, and all STDs for over 40 years. I've not heard of that, but I also don't like hearing about panaceas. Eating any water bomb tomatoes today is criminal. Yeah, because it's convenient to get them to a supermarket. They have the providers. They tend to step on them. Like in Serbia, it's still very common to buy things off of from stands. So, yeah. But even then, people cheat, and they cheat a lot. For example, exactly, my priest's wife works with my mother, and she went back to her home village and, brought back a lot of watermelons and things that were in season and gifted some watermelons to my mother. But her parents didn't produce it for selling. So what people tend to do is they graft on watermelons onto pumpkin vines. And it's barely sweet. Sure, it tastes like watermelon, but I don't know, it's like adding an extract of watermelon. So when you try one of these ones that people grow for themselves to eat, you get, yes, there it is. There's the teeth-numbing sweetness. Neuroblue? I've not heard of it. Methylene blue. I don't know. If that figure is accurate, backyard gardens could help, but the US farmland in my state is slowly being turned into apartments and developments. Very sad. Yeah. If you think that's sad, just remember how much space America has compared to Europe. Okay, let's not get too much into this. I'll probably do a stream on Sunday, fun stream. Maybe not. We'll see. Maybe I go for Saturday or something. Where we can have a hang, even though sometimes it always ends up there anyways. Exactly what was the original topic, modernism versus postmodernism. This is why the steak example is very poignant to me, because it really shows why a lot of modern conservative talking points really don't work. Because what are they operating based on? Basically nothing. What they're operating on is, I'm used to this, therefore this is natural. You will hear this from a lot of recovering classical liberals who are now trying to get more to the right, more to the traditional, but a lot of them are also atheists. So wherever a conservative Christian would say God or tradition or God-inspired tradition, they have to go with nature, and that just doesn't work. My favorite example to bring up is people who are against homosexuality or whatever, but are atheists, and they say, well, it's not natural. Well, first of all, what do you mean by natural? People will appeal to natural law. There are problems with that as well. But okay, that's sort of using the blade itself incites to violence or points to violence. So you're supposed to be looking at things, and it's not even deducing, it's more divining their purpose, their teleology. And then you are going to say, well, according to natural, this is what you do. So let me get another beer, because I'm about to address something that annoys me. Just said an cut. Bosh, I found you through Jim Bob, and I have to say, this is one buttery smooth golden voice. Thank you, Department of AFT. When I first started jumping on Jim Bob streams, and then it became like a part-time job because I was there most of the days of the week for a couple of months. It took about a month for my voice and accent to stop being the topic and, slide back into the leitmotif. and I could get points across. But it took its time, but we're there now, so thank you. In a way, we are still on topic, the idea of what used to be and what is now. I think how we look at how we think of food falls into the redefining of what is true and good versus what we substitute. Yes, so broadly, we are still on topic. Specifically, I'm about to bring up two people that combined annoy me more than just pearly things, and that would be a dynamic duo known as Sitch and Adam. And they were reviewing Andrew's appearance on Timcast. And I thought, okay, maybe I could actually stomach to watch this. I couldn't. So, yeah, not those guys. You've never seen midwittery on that level. Yes, B.A. Sasich. I can't describe it. It's the very, very essence of being a midwit, and they're trying to. And they don't particularly like Andrew. Never heard of them? Good for you. So I'm not saying go check them out. I'm saying don't check them out. But I tried, and they basically said we both believe. We're in a weird position because we both believe that rights don't really exist but are very useful. That's why I said it's a quintessential midwittery. It's a fifth essence of midwittery. It's so devoid of any push on any side that it's just pure, distilled, original midwittery. You could use it as midwit concentrate. if you feel, oh, this is a bit advanced, just add some citron Adam midwittery, and there you go. Adam is just so mid. How thinks he is smart. Oh yeah. Let me summarize an entire stream for you. So Adam, these people are just using ad hominems. That's so bad faith, Sitch. And there you go. Just repeat that after anything anyone ever says. And never have any position on anything other than repeat CIA talking points. Like, the United States is a force for good in the world. There you go. Spot on impression. Thank you. But then the point they made, we both believe rights don't really exist, but they're useful. That reminds me of the Christopher Hitchens quote, we have no choice but to believe in free will, right? Because it's useful. Okay, a little off topic, but I would love to hear your opinion on Nick Fuentes and Christian nationalism movement here in America. My opinion on Nick Fuentes is fed. That's my full position on him. Because the other positions are irrelevant other than ripple effects. The impression cracks you up. I keep realizing about myself, I can do very few impressions that I want to do, and then I somehow manage to eke out an impression I never thought I should be able to do. I used to love Chris Hitchens. He sounded very appealing to me when I was younger. Yes, I talk about him a lot as a master rhetorician, but horrible philosopher. Everything is just a joke. They don't think everything is just a joke. They just think of themselves as so far above it that the only reaction to any disagreement is laughing at things. Posh is really making YouTube money. 2 years ago, he was wearing only a dinky wife beater, and now he is wearing a Nike sweater. It is Nike, but it's got a Union Jack. So I'm patriotic for the country I'm not from. My impression of Fuentes is a slightly different 3-letter F word. Our interpretations are not mutually exclusive. In fact, they tend to have a pretty strong corollary. So, Christopher lost against Dinesh D'Souza, which is embarrassing. Yeah, I remember Jay reviewing that debate and the joy in his eyes to hear someone use a tag argument, or at least tag-like argument. Please send money to Serbia. Don't send money to my government. They're already going to fleece me for most of it. So send me money and I'll send them. Humanitarian actions. Yeah, I blew through my crucible line. Oh, Christ almighty. So, my bottle opener is here. I thought I had forgotten it. So let's try for the dragon's breath. There's some. So, cheers, folks. There are many people who conduct blogs and podcasts as a form of talking self-psychotherapy, lengthy self-serving monologue at an AA meeting. I think there's truth to that. I don't need a podcast. I can talk to myself quite well. Does it help? No. I keep getting crazier. But where were we? The idea of it's useful, therefore you can do it. It comes with utilitarianism, pragmatism and utilitarianism. The quintessential American ways of thinking, as in philosophies that arose from a mindset that exists still in America, but it used to exist in a much more concentrated form, I believe. She has big ears. I actually have quite small ears, but I know what you mean. I'm perfectly aware. I also have this nub microphone, which isn't the one being used right now, but yeah, that's what beer is for. Yeah, you don't need therapy. You need alcohol. Quick 30-second synopsis on your position with current events in Israel, Middle East. I think Iran is very unstable internally, and it has to work with a base that wants war, but the elite know that they can't afford it, but they also can't afford not to respond to anything. Israel is trying to bring America in, if not additional, Western powers. Good luck with that, by the way, because they've all depleted their militaries, as has the United States military been on a downward trajectory, not only because of the DEI nonsense. That's rather recent. The problem is disillusionment with American foreign policy. So, but what can Israel do? They this isn't just a joke. They really rely on chutzpah, because they used to control escalatory dominance. They don't anymore. And when I hear people I actually like Apostate Prophet and David Wood, like, they don't get anything on these topics. They view it as like WWE, and it's not that simple. So they say, the Tuesday, missile barrage from Iran did nothing. Like, it did quite a bit. The problem is Iran is trying to respond only as much as it has to, because they don't want to die out, and they don't want to close the whole moves off, because that's going to cause a global problem, and China isn't going to be particularly happy about that. But they showed we can get through the Iron Dome, we can hit military targets, we will use much more powerful ones next time. Not to mention that this is what Iran was investing in as far as military is concerned: missile technology. Because what else are they going to do? Get tanks to roll into Israel? That's not happening. Air power superiority? Not really. Much more expensive and much more dangerous, and there's a prohibitive effect and pressure also on training your pilots. And yeah, that's not happening. I mean, they could, that's not the principal thing you want to invest in. So they go for missile technology, and they can get into Israel. The problem is Israel also can't afford to back down, at least not completely. They're not going to be able to invade southern Lebanon. So yeah, anti-air Toyotas. That's a good one, Matthew. So I honestly don't know what's going to happen, because you have even Turkey, who a lot of hot air, might be forced into action. Jordan might be forced into action. Egypt might be forced into action. That's not good, because none of these countries are stable. Turkey's economy is shambles. You have check out prices of cars in Turkey and compare it to the average wage. Check out their inflation rates. They have substantial military forces, but they're very unstable. Like, it doesn't matter how strong your military is if you haven't got an economy. Egypt is so far beyond capacity for its infrastructure that it can barely afford anything. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't sound like a world war event. It could. I don't think it is, because we've also seen, as I said, when the Pentagon, like the DoD, and the British Foreign Office start saying, okay, you need to calm things down, that's that means there's probably a good chance things won't escalate to that level. Because no one can currently afford outright war. No one. And if Israel goes into it like a kamikaze itself, which I don't think they will, that's the only thing I can see happening. But I don't see a lot of rational actions from anyone, except like you have people trying to calm things down, but like, I don't know. I would have to approach this in an entire thing. So Jovan Pop says he would like me to talk more about political subjects and expand what I talk about. He likes my geopolitical analysis. Thank you. I actually follow a lot of politics and stuff. I just don't talk about it as much. I don't know. It's because as a Serb, you're used to having like alcoholics talk to you about it, and nothing ever makes sense. Like, let me tell you something. Greetings, Rethink Incorporated. Is Serbia as bad as Romania when it comes to the evangelical invasion? No. We're quite xenophobic on religious grounds. We do have, as was mentioned, a guy who rose to prominence during the pandemic who is mostly like a Sabbathian, like an Adventist. But no, that catches the eyes of a couple of people, mostly like the truther types. But people are actually pretty fond of the church, even if not of the clergy per se. But no, we don't get. There are obviously ones which are present, but I would definitely not describe it as an invasion. Eating beef and tomatoes with kombucha, Posh's curtains are tremendous. Any idea how explosive devices were planted in pages and walkie-talkies? Someone sabotaged a Nokia Motorola factory. They were actually produced in Taiwan, and Israel set certain front companies in Hungary, and then tried to sell, like on the black market, basically, to Hezbollah. So they set them up as like a discount thing. And the thing that is actually important is the pages weren't being used by the important military people in Hezbollah. They were used by the more, let's say, more the civilian arm of Hezbollah. And the idea was you would, there are still theories on how they cause the heating up of the batteries, because there are different ways of doing it. But you don't want to get lithium batteries to have contact with oxygen, because you get sparking, you get fire. That triggers the explosive device, and there you go. Just normal pages made in Serbia. That's a good one. Blue Skitel. Perhaps explosion is a property of lithium batteries under certain conditions. See electrical cars bursting into flames. It's not exactly an explosion as much as it is you get fire. But with such small devices, you wouldn't get an explosion. You can see, I saw a tragic one, like a Chinese man who was carrying like a battery from, I believe, an electric bike, because it was rather small. and goes into a lift, and the security camera records it. It just bursts into flames. That's all you need. But if you want it on a pager, that's not going to be a lot of material to work with. So it would burn up, it would cause burns, but it wouldn't blow up. So yeah, they definitely added explosives in addition to that. So things aren't, as I said, like that's a gimmick, and it would have been a great one if they were to initiate an attack. But from what I've heard from analysts and stuff, they were about to be found out, so they went for it. It was probably going to be used before an invasion, so cause confusion more so than killing important people, right? Because by the time they've realized what's happening, what else is bugged, people, they could roll in. But didn't work out that way. One terrorist state versus another. Yeah, I saw another annoying woman on Twitter, that Dr. Lupus, who basically said, what was it? Like, Lebanon is 31% Christians. Western Christians, whom do you stand with, Christians or Jews? And I said, have you seen like opinion polls on Hezbollah from Lebanon? Because neither Christians nor the Sunnis in Lebanon are very happy with Hezbollah. So I don't like this narrative building. Like, oh, what are you talking about? The whole point of these people who were trying to, but this was especially the anti-war left, but to an extent the anti-war right, they would say, well, Iraq should not have been a country. It is a bunch of tribes who have internal dynamics and disputes and dislikes and likes, alliances, etc. So you can't just say, well, you're a country now. There you go. Good luck. Yeah. So that was a main point. And nowadays they treat it as if these countries with these massively disparate religious groups, and by massively, I mean, it's not like 1 or 2% of this religion. No. We're talking about like thirds of countries being split. And Sunnis and Shia don't like each other. They don't. Yeah, Yugoslavia, exactly. So you try to create an entity, and if you like them, or if it's useful for you to treat Lebanon as a singular thing, as if people all have the same opinion, versus, I don't know, criticizing the British Empire for drawing lines or borders the way they did, you are just not a serious person. As I said, I will do a stream on plebeianizing everything. Got to go to bed. Nice stream, Posh. Catch you later. Thank you, Gvozden. Good night to you. God bless. I won't be here much longer. Post-French Revolution nation state. Yeah, D-Sims, the problem is it took a while for that to catch on. It would take quite a while for it to, do you say catch off? Release off. It's a very complex topic. Are you going to a better place? So I grew up with Lebanese Orthodox Christians. Yeah, those tend to be Greek Orthodox. I think Hezbollah would be wary of those things. Mossad IDF have used rigged exploding telephones often in the past. Yeah, as early as 89, I believe. Yeah, Middle East was Christian. But no, colonizing is only ever done by white Christians. That's it. Yeah, they were created to be unstable, but the Middle East was always unstable until conquered by a massively superior overarching force, like why we say Pax Romana, like when the Greeks did it. After that, the Romans. Then you had the Ottomans do it for a while. That's the only time you had peace, because Sunnis and Shia really hate each other since the death of Muhammad. Right, that's when this started and hasn't stopped. And even the idea that, oh, all of Islam will unite against X, tough luck. They disagree. Like even schools within the system, there isn't a singular Islam. They might tolerate each other. You have the idea that these are different jurisprudences and stuff. Oh, they're a mercy from Allah, so they all can work out. But that isn't how it actually works. And when I mentioned Iran not being stable, Iran is not stable because it's now less than 50% Muslim. A couple of months ago, a prominent rapper in Iran who makes anti-regime songs was arrested, and people thought he was going to be executed. They released him because they know they're very close to breaking point. And I said less than 50% Muslim. That includes Sunni, Shia, Sufis, all of them. Iran is high IQ. Iran is pretty well educated. And Iran and Islam cannot survive in such a place, even with this little attention given to it. Is Islam more divided than Christianity? In a sense, yes. In other senses, no. Because they don't exactly have like the idea of a church. It's more like Protestantism. So in a sense, Protestants are more divided than, let's say, Orthodox Christians and Catholics. But in other ways, Protestants are more united. Or more divided, sorry. CIA has been working in Iran for a very long time. Yes, obviously. So, but you can't say CIA makes up divisions. They tend to work on already existing divisions. Where are you getting that they have 50%? I can't find the polling right now, but polling was done, and in the last couple of years, they've closed over 30,000 mosques because no one was attending them. Persians are not Arabs. I didn't say they were high IQ because they weren't Arabs. It's just that, like in Pakistan, inbreeding, like consanguineous marriages are very common, which over time is just death for a civilization. But it also means, like I said on Twitter, yes, it means they ask no more than 3 questions a month, but none of them is, why should we doubt the man telling us to drink camel urine? Who cares? For 10 USD, thank you, who cares? Says, hello, Mr. Mustache Man. That's a generous thing to say to someone of my facial hair. That I appreciate. Yeah, that's it. You have people who question that polling, but the closing of mosques is much easier to sense, to see, and it has to be anonymous, which also sheds light on things. Because on the one hand, if it's anonymous, people can infiltrate it. But on the other hand, if it's not anonymous, go ahead. Tell the Islamic regime that you are no longer a Muslim. But the mosques closing, that's something that's very noticeable. And again, people from Iran, it's not as clamped down as somewhere like North Korea. So you have people being able to post, being able to speak. This department says Muslims constitute 99.4% of the population, of whom 90 to 50% are Shia. Yeah, that's not how it works. Where does the U.S. Department say that? So yeah, Islam again is not doing well, even in English-speaking. I don't know what we should call them, but these Dawagandists, I like that term. They can't keep a story together. No one can. Recently, I forgot to mention this on the slop posting stream. They've shown that ChatGPT says that Islam is true, and it was thoroughly debunked very quickly. But it's always like a snake oil salesman pitch. They go for something, it works for a while until people realize, wait, that doesn't make any sense. That's wrong. That doesn't mean what you said it means. And then they move on to another gimmick. It's just gimmick, gimmick, gimmick. Are you going to raid Dyer in 15 minutes? Sure. Oh, Christ, I haven't set up that Premiere thing. But I will tell you to go. Okay, that's a good cue for me to to leave. But yeah. Oh, looks like Made by Jim Bob posted 2 Atheists episode 2. He would never learn how to raid. Narrator voice. There are more Sunnis worldwide, but the Shia have a majority in Lebanon and Iran. Yeah, I believe in Iraq too. But they're substantially a minority. They're like 15% of Islam or something. Yeah, but ChatGPT doesn't say these things. Like you say, okay, answer this from an Islamic perspective, and then it answers. Because if you ask it without any input before that, it will just give you, like, depends on your beliefs, depends on this. It's just a language processing AI system. It doesn't work with. It can't tell you which religion is true. And I saw Apostate Prophet ask it, which religion is true? Answer in one question, and it says belief. That's it. But it doesn't matter, because it was this Australian girl who did like, wow, it said that Muhammad is a real prophet, because they're the easiest people to grift off of. Because it's a very low IQ religion, and with high in-group preferences, so you can grift anytime you'd like. Posh, is it true? If you're Sunni, then you ain't shit. Good one. Lebanon was majority Christian, but Hezbollah persecuted them, so many of Christians had to escape to the Western world. Yeah, that's why I have a lot of expats. But no, people loved, the Christians of Lebanon loved Nasrallah. He was a hero to them. This is the problem. This is the dichotomous thinking. This is slop posting. This is tactical beliefs. I'm trying to weave like a larger narrative of the inputs that have crept into and sometimes been hammered into by different groups and interest groups. I mean, don't. But why our level of discourse is as low as it is? And the next one to cover would be the plebeianizing everything, because it makes peasant thinking into alleged aristocratic thinking. And peasant thinking isn't a problem if you're a peasant. The problem is you're a peasant pretending to be a lord. And every time that's happened, that's caused many, many problems, because you actually need to have all sorts of support systems built in if you want to be some type of lord. If you think all it takes is good intentions, good luck, and you're going to cause many more problems than you solve. That's why these statistics are always misrepresented, and often rendered in order to be much easier to misrepresent. So yeah. During the Iraq War, there was a funny meme that said, if you are not Shiite, you are Sunni, and showed a happy stick figure on a sunny day. Shiati? I might have butchered that. If you're not Shiati, you are Sunni. Shiite, you are Shiite. Sorry, I can't get that. ChatGPT is just for cleaning grammatical errors if English is not your primary language. Yeah, and you can actually get it to interact with sources, but you're leaving it up to the discretion. Oh, shitty. yeah. I assume something like that, but my mind is too autistic to let me just enjoy something. Jay won't start on time. He's 3 days late already. I find it so funny that he keeps starting late. And he talks about how he can't understand time zones, which I always found funny. Yeah. I won't even say I'll continue the stream until Jay starts. Because that might be a commitment I won't be able to live up to. But Jay is our boy, so we'll try to support him. I still have to do the Austrian song. So to start coping already about the song, it's sung by 3 singers. Something fishy about time zones. No, it's no backsies. Unless you mean I did not commit to going until Jay starts. Let's be clear. No backsies on the Austrian thing. The problem is the song I'm going to be performing starts with the 3 of them just singing a cappella. And I'm going to have to introduce like basic like strumming just to give it some texture and not just have myself, solo it. But it's supposed to be, and I said many times, I'm a huge sucker for harmony singing. So I like things that are even subpar but have harmony. I'm like, nice, this is epic. I'm getting a lot of this from this stream. Oh God. Let's try to read this. Oh, is that Turkish? No, it's not. Yistilin. I've never seen, I can't recognize that language, but when things start with a Y, I first think Turkish. You're drunk. I wish. Austrian song yodeling. No. I believe Steiermark is actually more towards Hungary and Slovakia, like the northeastern part. Let me check that. Steiermark. Stria. Okay, no, it's more center. I believe I can pronounce that using Irish spelling. Okay, it is Turk. Amharic. Christ, you're hitting me with a non-Indo-European language. So, you're out of my comfort zone. Have you ever tried doing an Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonation before? Sorry. Where are we getting rain from when it's this warm? I mean, I didn't expect it. Yeah, I even mentioned I saw an old interview of him in Austria. And one thing that you notice immediately Hello, Redfish. I immediately noticed with Austrian German as opposed to German is that the initial S's are pronounced as S's, whereas in German, typical German, S's, unless they're nearing the end of the syllable, are pronounced as Z's. So you hear the rain, and I would shut up just to mess with you, Chris Lestrange. So I can't forget hearing Schwarzenegger say, "Es ist so fantastisch, selbst hier zu sein." So in like regular German, "Es ist so fantastisch, selbst hier zu sein." Es ist so fantastisch, selbst hier zu sein. And someone saying, "I find this indistinguishable from his English." Yeah, but I'm peeing. Well, fair enough. John McDermott? Is that the guy who played the Emperor on Star Wars? Sunny and clear, 75 degrees Fahrenheit here in southwest Pennsylvania. Yeah, that was our weather. Then it got cloudy, and then we had some small spits of rain. I wouldn't even call them rainfalls, but it was still very warm and will continue to be. I think Sunday will get a bit colder. But yeah. What does his last name mean? Schwarzenegger? It means black, basically. Sounds Dutch, much like the Afrikaans we speak here. Oh, you're from South African Republic. I didn't know that. That Lestrange throws one off. Would have concluded Quebec, maybe. Nice. I also checked out my statistics for this channel. Turns out we're no longer 90% American. We're now 56% American. It's still by far the biggest singular demographic. Like the next one is, I think, like 7 or 8% Australian, then the UK, then Canada. But again, that everything else is in single digits. French, Portuguese, South African. Okay. I have to tell you, I don't like Dutch. There are two European languages I actively dislike, and it's Dutch and Portuguese. So, and I think Portuguese is worse, if it makes you feel any better. How many Albanians? I'm not even going to address that question. Yeah, I don't know. Dutch sounds like taking the worst parts of German and French and putting it into one, and stop bloody growling at me. But Portuguese doesn't even sound like a language. Like it sounds like someone's messing about. But we have a new priest from Georgia. What should I do? Well, Georgians are fine. Unless you mean American Georgia. In which case you should ask him, does he see Alan Jackson when he goes walking about? Every time I read the word Albanian, I read it in Bosch's voice, and that's nice. Americans love British accents. Yeah, I've noticed. What was strange to me for a while, even like a lower class British accent sounded fancy to Americans, but I think they picked up on that not being the case. Oi, bruv, doesn't pack a punch. Like, greetings, my good fellow. Oh man, I liked Dutch so much I learned a little. It's a funny language. Yeah, but I'm not saying it's bad, other than I don't like how it sounds. Dude, how can you not like a language that calls a frog a kicker? Okay, fair enough. That's one point in their favor, if true. The accent matches the deep voice. Yeah, again, when I started trying to talk like Christopher Lee as a boy, that was years and years before my voice dropped. So it was a nice, convenient thing. Possibly play football for Football Club Porto. I don't like football. It's the most boring. Okay, not as boring as like baseball, but you know what I mean. It's a very boring sport. It can't maintain my attention. There are very few sports I can watch actively. Tennis I can watch, volleyball I can watch, basketball I can watch, because things are constantly happening. Football is just like you wait like 5 minutes and then whatever. Oh, they got to the other side's goal. Nothing. Yeah, like soccer. I've never watched a single American football game. Do you ever watch UFC? No. As far as fighting goes, I watch like historical, like martial arts things, but it has become to like, again, everything becomes a bit gay. They constantly have to talk about, oh, well, this guy now doing this and that and this and that, and I've lost interest. I'm like, you know, Family Guy, and the clan is turned into like a British pub, and they watch happen upon a game of cricket all the time they get into radio. Am I going to improvise a bit? Like the Somerset Dillies are playing the Yorkshire Puddings, and it's 3 gills to 5 gulps. That's how I feel watching the UFC, as far as I care. They're fighting each other, and that guy is beating the other guy. The moment it becomes too much about technicalities, like I'm already too fancy in my musical taste and stuff. I don't need to do that with people bashing each other's faces in. Frisbee golf. I'll stop reading that chat right there. Yeah, Christopher Lee was great. I remember people were saying he was an occultist, but you have videos of him saying they had concerns with filming Dracula. And he was concerned about doing certain activities, and he also, because there was a rumor, he had hundreds of books about the occult, and he studies and practices it. And he says, don't ever go there, because not only will you lose your mind, you will lose your souls. And I don't think occultists would tell you to not do it because you'll lose your minds and souls. Obviously, could have been like a double trick, like a bluff. But there you go. Blimey rubbish and knackersacks. Right. Yeah, by the way, if there's one thing I hate, is when they have those intros and they're like all standing there, and then someone makes an ass of themselves. It lacks sportsmanship. It's too flashy. It's too that there's no honor in it. Obviously, you can have honorable people in it, and it's peak fighting. Like, you're not going to get that from just a single martial art. So I respect the skills. It's just too flashy for me. Which World War piques your interest? The upcoming one. I don't know. neither one do I see as more important. I have no pet war I prefer to study. Because I've never been one to get overly attached to like a narrative one can draw from a war, which is how people tend to get attached to a particular conflict. So yeah, I don't think like, oh, we defeated the fascists, woo. Yeah, at what price? And what also died with this? I just don't. I can't bring myself to be so daft to turn it into a pet project. And then, oh, did you know that actually these guys were the real good guys? And then you dig a bit deeper. No, it isn't. They just people analyze something to a level where it's useful and then stop. But it has to be niche enough that it can't be that easily checked. You actually need to do quite a bit of research to get there. I think Vlad was Orthodox in Romania. Posh, is this true? Like Vlad Tepes? Yeah. He was Dracul. Yeah. But that's what it's based off of. He was Orthodox. I like Shaolin monks, Kung Fu versus other disciplines. Yeah, but that's not meant to be a fighting thing. That's meant to be a disciplinary thing. They do fight, but it's Kung Fu isn't meant to just be that. It has different purposes. Posh, had you said you're going to be doing a political stream next or soon, or had I misheard you? I will be doing some, like, especially if people are interested. But I have to plan for something proper, something that can be talked about, and not just like this, just all over the place. MMA is now WWE, kind of, except they actually fight each other. What's truly impressive about WWE is that they're all massive lads. Like, most of them are pretty tall. And it doesn't matter, like, oh, the springs underneath, like the floor and stuff, and the tables are cracked. Like, yeah, that takes massive amounts of control and practice to be able to like fall properly as someone who's like 6'7". Like, it's still impressive. It's more acting than it's fighting. Okay, he started the intro, which means we can do the Austrian song, and then I'm letting you go. Actually, not just letting you go. I will be affirmatively and actively asking you to go and watch Jay's stream. Politics is also WWE. Yeah, but that's mostly to mask it. WWE is entertainment for money, and politics is also for money, but much deeper. So you have a level of politics that is WWE, not just pretend, but actually works on similar principles. But ultimately, yeah, it can't always be jokes. All right, Zimmerman, I'll let people know. Matthew prefers the World Wars to WWE. All right, let's get into this a bit. It's usually higher than what I would sing, so forgive me for that, but rounding it out also won't help. So here's a song by STS called Fürstenfeld. Take this off so I can hear myself a bit. Langsam findet der Tag sein und die Nacht beginnt. In der Ketterstraßen da singt Anna blowing in the wind. Hat grünes Räckel an, steht da ganz verloren. Und der Steffel, der schaut hobby auf den armen Steireburm. Der hat wollen sein Glück probieren in der großen fremden Stadt. Hat glaubt, sei Musik bringt ihm aufs Rennbahn-Express-Titelblatt. Aus der Traum zerplatzt wie Seifenblasen, nix ist blieb. Aufs Eus wie a paar Schilling in seinem Gitarrenkoffer drin. Wochenlang steht ich schon da, wochenlang plag ich mich an. Ich spiel mit den Finger rund und sing sogar, da kommt die Sonne. Doch es ist so nade schwer, keiner will mir singen hören. Langsam krieg ich wirklich nur, ich frag mich, was ich dort war. Da geht es ganz im Tag der Wind, ist aus Baustellen, dass kein Mensch was findet. Die Bräulen und den Lines sein. Sorry, this is a difficult one. Die guten Heilen sahen sein Graus und im Café, da brennt sie aus. Ich will wieder haben, fühl mir doch so allein. Brauch keine große Welt, ich will haben nach Fürstenfeld. Ich will wieder haben, fühl mir doch so allein. Brauch keine große Welt, ich will haben nach Fürstenfeld. Woo! Sorry. It's difficult because my regular German wants to kick in and it doesn't. So, acoustic Rammstein. So that was it. Thank you all for being here. It was nice and fun. Old Austro-Hungarian anthem. Sure. Next time, I said it will be either Saturday or Sunday, and it won't be the politics stream yet, and it will probably be just a hang stream where people ask whatever they'd like, and I'll try to answer on topic and not answer like questions 5 times removed from where we started. So again, thank you all. God bless you. Latin lessons are still being worked on. I haven't finished the full thing, and I'm rather fearful of starting in one way and then realizing it was the inferior way. But for now, you see, I'm starting to stream more regularly. I would have streamed on Tuesday, but it too many things were happening. Please go over to Jay's stream. As for me, I'm going to go to bed rather soon. And that would be it. So see you soon. God bless. And bye-bye.